This tutorial series will take you from a complete beginner to an advanced level user of Studio One, a zero-tier guide, if you will. In this second video, I'll go over all the different editing tools, including the keyboard modifiers too. At the end of every video, I add extra bonus tips, so make sure you catch that. Please like the video if you find it useful, subscribe for more content, check out the links in the description, and finally, if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them in the comments.
And we begin.
With the arrow tool, click to select an event. Click and drag an event to move it. Click in a blank space to move the playhead. Double-click in a blank space to create an event. Use this on instrument tracks to create MIDI clips, or as Studio One calls them, an instrument part. Double-click on an event to open it in the editor. Click and drag from a blank space to draw an area. Any events in that area will be selected. Hold Shift to do the same if hovering over an event. Shift and click another event to add it to the selection, or to deselect it. Hold Shift and double-click an event to select all events on that track. Hold Ctrl and Alt, then click and drag to slip edit. With the Range tool, click and drag to create a range. Click and drag a range to move it along the timeline. Create a range, then hold Shift to include further ranges. Hold Alt and click to add the ranges to a chosen track. Hold Ctrl and Alt, then draw a range to exclude it. Click to move the playhead. Double-click to split an event at the cursor. Create a range, then double-click it to split events at the edges of the range. Hold Ctrl to use the arrow tool. Press this square bracket symbol to link the arrow tool and the range tool. This is also known as the Smart tool. Now when hovering over the top half of a track lane, you'll get the range tool, and over the bottom half you'll get the arrow tool. I recommend using this tool instead of the arrow and the range tool independently. It can seriously speed up your workflow. You can also choose a third tool which will be activated by holding Ctrl. This is the alternative tool. It also works if using the arrow tool independently. Select the alternative tool by clicking on this little symbol under the arrow tool. I like to keep this on the range tool because when zoomed out too far, the Smart tool will only act as the arrow tool. You can choose any of the other tools though. With the Split tool, simply click to split an event at the cursor. And with the Eraser tool, click to delete. The Paint tool is most useful for drawing automation and for composing instrument parts in MIDI. There's different options to help you draw in different shapes and curves. There's also the Transform tool which you can use to alter your automation in different ways. I'll do separate videos on MIDI composition and automation where I'll cover this tool more in depth. I'll add them to this playlist. With the Mute tool, click on an event to mute it. The Bend tool is used to perform time stretching within an audio clip. If you want to time stretch the whole clip, then just use the arrow tool. Hold Alt, then click and drag the edge of the clip. To use the Bend tool accurately, it's best to enable the Bend marker view. Right-click and tick this box. Click once to insert a bend marker. Now click and drag a marker to time stretch the audio. Notice how when shortened the waveform is green in colour. If stretched, it's red. Double-click on a marker to delete it. Hold Alt and click and drag a marker to move it. Hold Alt and click and drag in a space to draw a selection. Finally, with the Listen tool, click and hold to listen to a section of your song. When you let go of the mouse, playback will be stopped. Notice how the track you click on will be soloed, so you can hear that part independently of the rest of the song. Hold Shift to play the selected clip in loop. So there's one keyboard modifier that I've not mentioned, and I use this one all the time. Hold Shift and Alt and then draw an area to zoom into that area. To zoom out again, hold Shift and Alt and click. So which tools should you use to be the most efficient? As I mentioned, using the Smart tool really speeds things up. I never use the Split tool, Eraser tool, Mute tool or Listen tool. For the Split tool I just double click with the Range tool. For the Eraser tool I just press Delete on the keyboard. I guess putting this as your alternative tool might not be a bad idea, so you'd have to reach across to the Delete button. You can just hold Control and click. Instead of the Mute tool I use the keyboard shortcut Shift and M with my chosen event selected. Normally if I want to listen to a part soloed, I'll be tweaking things, so I don't use the Listen tool because you have to hold down the mouse button for playback. The Paint tools and Transform tool are great for sound design, and obviously the Bend tool has a very specific function. So that's all the tools in Studio One. Hopefully that was helpful. Let me know in the comments. If you want more Studio One tutorials, then I'll be adding them to this playlist. And if you want to actually see me making music in Studio One, then check out this playlist. Subscribe, say hello, ask a question even if you think it sounds dumb. Studio One gang, sound.